American Airlines once intended to launch several long-haul international routes from Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. For a short period, one of these routes, Seattle to London, was operational. However, the airline soon gave up all hopes of launching long-haul service from Seattle, and this can be attributed to a variety of factors, most of which we will discuss in this video. So, thanks a lot for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Before diving into the main topic, it's important to first talk about American's history with long-haul service from the West Coast. While American has maintained a modest long-haul network from its hub in Los Angeles, having a large network in this regard has never really been part of its strategy as it would be with, for example, United Airlines and San Francisco. American's hub in LAX has serviced a variety of intercontinental routes, but following the pandemic, the network has seen a large number of cuts and today is rather small. In addition to Los Angeles, I can't help but mention that American even briefly flew long-haul from San Jose. Following AirCal's acquisition by American Airlines in 1988, the carrier was able to secure a large number of slots in San Jose. I'm assuming that due to San Jose's status as a major tech hub being right in Silicon Valley, American decided to experiment with long-haul service. So, in 1991, American launched service from San Jose to Tokyo Narita, Japan, with McDonnell Douglas DC-10s, later being replaced by the larger MD-11. This route became the airport's first non-stop link to Asia. 10 years later, in 2001, American opened up another long-haul route from San Jose to Paris Charles de Gaulle, France, with the Boeing 767-300ER. Somewhere down the line, the third long-haul route from San Jose to Taipei, Taiwan, launched on the brand new, at the time, Boeing 777-200ERs. Long story short, various world events prompted American to scale back its San Jose hub operations, signaling the end of Paris and Taipei service. Service to Tokyo, however, held on for another few years until its end in 2006. With American's long-haul chapter in San Jose over, the airline consolidated its West Coast long-haul operations to Los Angeles. Today, American serves London Heathrow, Sydney, and Tokyo Haneda year-round, in addition to Auckland being served seasonally. That's it. That's literally the entirety of American's long-haul network from the West Coast these days, but it never used to be this small. Before the pandemic, American had service from LAX to Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and also Tokyo Narita, in addition to the current route to Haneda. The airline even had two routes to South America, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Buenos Aires, Argentina. Following the pandemic, all of the routes to Asia were suspended, with only Haneda resuming eventually. Hong Kong service was axed completely, in addition to both routes to South America. So now let's finally move on to American Airlines and Seattle. In early 2020, American announced the launch of long-haul flights from Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. This move came shortly after the announcement to strengthen American's relationship with Alaska Airlines, who were about to join the One World Alliance. Plans for American's long-haul ambitions were announced in February 2020, which, as we have now come to know, was pretty poor timing considering the world events that would transpire shortly thereafter. Regardless, American revealed plans to serve London Heathrow, Shanghai Pudong, and Bengaluru. London was the only route to begin officially, and it did so in March of 2021 with the Boeing 777-200ER. Seattle to Heathrow operated daily, and American was the fourth airline serving the route, in addition to Delta, British Airways, and Virgin Atlantic. Aside from London, Shanghai service was also due to operate on the 777-200ER and Bengaluru on the 787-9. Service to Bengaluru, India was due to launch in October 2020 but never did so due to the effects of the pandemic by that time. Shanghai was due to start in March of 2021 but was soon postponed. As discussed earlier, American Airlines' intentions to expand internationally in Seattle stemmed from its growing relationship with Alaska Airlines. Alaska joined oneworld in late 2021, and American was ideally looking to grow its oneworld connectivity from Seattle. This was a rather risky move as competitor Delta has a trans-Pacific hub in Seattle that was established in 2014. Currently, Delta serves 6 long-haul destinations from Seattle, with its 7th, Taipei, starting in June 2024. American services to London and Shanghai were likely proposed from Seattle for business reasons. This was also partly true for Bangalore thanks to tech giants like Amazon and Microsoft having a major presence in both Seattle and India. Bangalore is India's tech hub, so this route seemed somewhat viable. However, there was a fair bit of demand pre-pandemic between Seattle and Bangalore. Overall, when looking at demand from Bangalore to the United States, most of the demand was from San Francisco, with over 200 passengers a day pre-pandemic. San Francisco accounted for 17.7% of all U.S. traffic to or from Bangalore. This huge demand from San Francisco did not go unnoticed as both Air India and United announced their own nonstop services between San Francisco and Bengaluru. As of today, Air India continues to operate regularly on this route. As for United, they announced the route, but I don't think they were ever able to start the service. That's especially tough now due to Russian airspace issues. So instead of Bengaluru, United then opted to add a second daily frequency from Newark to Delhi. Moving back to American and Seattle, the city would not have had enough demand to sustain a nonstop flight to Bengaluru as pre-pandemic there were only about 50 people a day flying between the two cities. Hence, American wanted to depend highly on its partnership with Alaska Airlines, the largest airline at the airport. Alaska's large domestic network from Seattle could serve as a feeder source for the Bangalore flight. But all these plans were put on hold again and again and again. The global pandemic forced American to postpone both Bangalore and Shanghai services from Seattle, eventually cutting both routes completely. However, the pandemic was not the only reason why these routes were cut before they even began. As I briefly touched on earlier, the escalated conflict with Russia saw its airspace being closed to American carriers. This was bad news as many Asian routes for US carriers largely depended on utilizing Russian airspace for the most efficient routing. With Russia closed off to US airlines, there was no viable alternate route to fly from Seattle to Bangalore, which sealed that route's fate. As for Shanghai, China held on to its international travel restrictions far longer than most countries. Therefore, the uncertain nature of travel to China was a key factor in the Seattle to Shanghai route's demise. Today, US carriers like United and Delta have resumed service to mainland China, but nowhere near the frequency they had pre-pandemic. In contrast, American has not resumed any of these routes and does not have any intention to do so. Seattle to London Heathrow was the only one of these 3 flights that became a reality. After its inauguration in March of 2021, the route lasted around 2 years. In April 2023, American announced it would be suspending the route for the winter 2023-24 season and eventually resume it on March 31, 2024. Soon after that announcement, American removed the route from its inventory and suddenly axed it. Today, oneworld partner British Airways continues to operate multiple flights from London to Seattle, even having 2 flights a day at certain points during the week. Delta and its partner Virgin Atlantic also continue to operate on this route. As for American, it's now back to being a regular airline at Seattle, only serving 7 destinations from the airport to its various hubs nationwide. So now let's exactly talk about why American was unsuccessful in Seattle. One of the main reasons is quite obvious, and like we briefly discussed earlier, it's pretty much related to bad timing that was totally out of the airline's control. All of its 3 long-haul routes from Seattle were announced right before the global pandemic, which no one could have predicted. Furthermore, American Airlines has never been a big airline in Seattle. As such, it does not have as strong a relationship with Seattle-based companies as other established airlines might have. This lack of strong corporate connections in Seattle is a big reason why the airline could never see much success on the international front. However, American was onto something with the proposed Seattle to Bangalore flight. Though the demand in Seattle was not strong enough to support the flight itself, there is a fair amount of demand from the Seattle-Tacoma area for travel to South Asia. This was primarily why airlines like Emirates entered the Seattle market in 2012. Qatar Airways followed in 2021 and Turkish Airlines in 2022. Delta's growing presence in Seattle was also tough for American to compete with. As mentioned earlier, Delta has been expanding its long-haul network at the airport since 2014, so they are definitely well established there. That's something that I think not even a partnership with Alaska could help American very much. So yeah, American's experiment with long-haul flying from Seattle was definitely an interesting point in the airline's history. It was awkward for sure, and I doubt anyone saw this experiment seeing much success. But that's something else to think about. What if the various world events that ruined American's Seattle plans never transpired? Do you think American would still have succeeded then? Let me know what you think, because I'm really curious to hear what you all have to say. Thank you very much for watching today's video, and I hope you found it interesting and enjoyable. I appreciate you all staying patient with me since the college semester is quite busy at this point, but I'll do my best to remain somewhat consistent with uploads. But until I see you next time, take care and see you soon.